Hello, I'm very glad to be with you and share this moment with you. Today we'll be talking about a crisis communication management and communication plan. We used to say a crisis management plan, but in fact, it's a crisis management and communication plan. And I remember last year, March 2020, that suddenly there were new laws, new health measures. Companies had to close. People had to work remotely. So this is what I wish to talk to you about it as an overview of what happened and what we should do maybe a year later. So, when I was invited to join the Global Alliance Education and Training Program and make a presentation, I quickly accepted. For several years, I have gained experience in public relations and which include, of course, crisis management. Today, I wish to discuss with you this overview of what happened and, in my case, how we did manage and what I think it's about time to do, which is review the plan because the crisis goes on. So I split my plan in with few elements. I'll introduce you. I will present to you this global crisis definition that I found very, very interesting. Then we'll talk about our local context, the organization purpose, and reviewing a plan, a communication plan, but then specifically a crisis communication and a crisis management and communication plan. We'll consider these elements: ethical leadership in organization, of course, the communication strategies, public and stakeholders, and at the end, some hope that the crisis will end, but since then, bringing an effective crisis management and communication plan, a review of this plan. For a definition, I was amazed to see this definition from Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, March 19, 2020. He says, "We are facing a global health crisis, unlike any in the 75-year history of the United Nations, one that is spreading human suffering, infecting the global economy, and upending people's lives." So we'll look at that today I will propose that we'll look at that today in a local context, because each of us in our countries or city, we had to deal with this. So we were responsive. And we were responsive because all in a sudden, in March last year, we could see special regulations to protect the citizens with consequences on our organizations. Also, suddenly there were various sanitary measures that were put in place. We saw contain and shut down companies as well. As organizations need to survive, they did respond. Most of them did respond. How did respond? A good way to do that was by building a crisis management and communication plan. The plan should have included the key prioritized business issues, including the reorganization of work processes, the teleworking that we call, the schools that are closed and the parents that need to keep working, all kind of issues that didn't exist a week before. How did we take care of our public and stakeholders? How did we understand them? And how did we provide the information? So a year later, what I suggest with my presentation is a review, an assessment of a crisis management and communication plan. First of all, let's not forget when we review a plan, such a plan, the purpose of the organization. It's very tempting to slip this and think about maybe to forget about this. Let's review the very quick not definition of the organization purpose. What is organization purpose? Very simply, it's the fundamental reason for being. Like in my association, for example, our purpose is public protection from the professional work that is done by our people, our members. If you work for an hospital, what's the purpose of the organization? If you work for a bank, what is the purpose of your organization? And so on. This purpose will help keeping a focus on reviewing the plan, of course. Also, another element to consider in reviewing the plan is, do we need to add or specify elements in regards of ethical leadership? Ethical leadership in organization include principles, and from these principles, I wish to propose the ones concerning the responsibility and the accountability. Responsibility, well, it's based on the moral duties and the codes. That's what we are expecting from our leaders in organizations. How the crisis, the communication management and communication crisis plan did support that. Organizations should take responsibility to address the crisis. Were we quick enough? Did we accomplish enough? That needs to be evaluated. The accountability, the planning action it's about the action, taking action, and planning the action to address the crisis. Was the crisis management and communication plan proactive enough? Could we add things? That needs to be reviewed. So really, the ethical leadership in organization is be responsible and be accountable. Be responsible by the duty we have as leaders, and when you get to the accountability, of course, it refers to the action. What did we do, and did we do it? So this brings to the questions of evaluation. What kind of questions should we think about? Global, general questions. Of course, there are all kind of critical path to do the evaluation of a crisis management and communication plan, but some questions that you can find, but some questions that I find interesting are the following. Was the plan adapted to the changes caused by the crisis? How the plan was adapted when a new regulations was had an effect on the organization or our employees or our clients, stakeholders, and so on. The curfew, the health measures, the risk of income instability of the organization for the organization. As the crisis continues, should our actual plans be evaluated? I would say so. So from the assessment of a crisis communication plan, some questions: did employees at all levels share a common vision for the organization? Were the stakeholders and public issues addressed and prioritized? And has the level of risk changed on the balance sheet, recruitment, and marketing? Also, with the communication strategies, right? A year ago, we were planning to communicate in a certain way using communication channels. Are these still good today? So, and we of course probably all focused on bringing information on real time. Was it possible? Were the people, some leaders, some executive in the company who were questioning information, and that would bring a delay in publishing it? So were the communication channels good enough to provide information in real time? And the reliability of information to audiences and stakeholders. So important. We all, most of us, I'm sure, we could had to address rumors because the information was reliable, but there were some other information coming from other sources, and it created confusion where we're quick enough to, to reassure and reconfirm the information that we were providing was true and reliable. Of course, concerning the publics and stakeholders, it's interesting to deep this analysis about the awareness and the understanding of the message. After a year, our audiences, what's their, do we know what their issues perception? How do they think that this crisis go? Are the employees worry about the survival of the surviving of the company? Uh, we need to address and make sure that the employees and our different publics and stakeholders, they know they follow the organization. They're part of it, and the organization as well understand what their perceptions are. So for that, maybe it could be time to solicit people's concern through a survey, to informal discussions with some groups, and even to a following steps. The next step would be to engage groups in a two-way communication. Would you finally consider connect with opinion leaders to inform them and getting maybe their support? At the end, you would be probably keeping most of your plan, but adapting to today's reality a year later, just for the perspective that people have been in this crisis for a year. We all been in the, living the crisis for a year. So what step should be taken in the next version of the plan? Well, first, I thought of reminding to all of us an interesting point of view from James Croning, who's professor at University of Maryland at the communication department. He says, is that communication with publics before decisions are made is most effective in resolving issues and crises because it helps managers to make decisions that are less likely to produce consequences than publics make into issues and crises. So let's target and look for an effective crisis and communication planning plan, including a good review, a good assessment, and some tips that I wish to propose to your attention is making sure that we have set up a central information center, that we communicate with key publics. We provide also a constant flow of information. We get this third-party support, be from, leaders of opinion, could be from government authorities, could be from union authorities, and so on. And also at the end, listen and find alternative options as necessary. So let's all hope that this crisis will finish, and since then, let's be effective with our communication, with our management and communication plan. Thank you to all of you. It was a pleasure.